All right, let's dive right in. Most of us, we go through life thinking we're in the driver's seat, right? But what if, for years, we've really just been passengers, running on a kind of inherited program we never even chose? Well, this whole explainer is a blueprint for taking the wheel. It's about the journey from being an unconscious avatar to a fully awakened driver. So, first things first, let's get one big idea out of the way. Forget the whole blank slate theory. The source material we're digging into here suggests we don't arrive as empty vessels at all. We show up more like ancient hardware, a really sophisticated system, pre-wired and just waiting for its first software installation. And that brings us to our first section, the inherited program. I want you to think of this like the foundational operating system we're all given. It's often installed without our consent, and it just runs in the background of our lives until, one day, we finally decide to take a peek at the code. So how does this programming get installed? Well, it happens in two main ways. First, there's the cradle. This is basically the lottery of your birth, your family, your country, the time period you were born into. That's the initial download. But it's the hammer that really makes it stick. This is the constant, relentless repetition of stories, rules, and language that literally forges your initial identity. In this program, it comes with a whole suite of pre-installed apps. Before you even have a chance to choose for yourself, you're handed a religion, a nationality, a social class. You might inherit pride or anger that isn't even yours, and you get drafted into a family story, carrying its victories and its wounds. And this, right here, is where that powerful illusion of us versus them starts to take root. All of this programming leads to a pretty grand illusion. We start to believe the map is the territory. We mistake the collection of beliefs, the doctrines, the names we've given things for the thing itself. But our direct, raw experience of life, that's the territory. And it's always way more fluid, more untamed, and more real than any map could ever hope to capture. So what happens when we start to notice that the map doesn't quite match the world we're actually walking through? Well, that brings us to section 2, the mirror of recognition. This is that critical moment when a crack appears in the programming. It's the first real spark of awakening. And this is absolutely key. The first step isn't to fight the program, to try and burn it all down. It's much simpler. It's just to see it, to recognize, maybe for the very first time, that the walls of your reality are built out of stories, and that a program has been running you all along. This is where the metaphor of the mirror becomes so powerful. Think about it. When you look in the mirror, you don't just see a reflection. For a split second, you become aware of the one who is looking. You get this sudden realization that you are not the image in the glass, you are the awareness observing from behind your own eyes. This awareness of being the one who sees leads us to the absolute core distinction of this entire journey, which we're going to explore in section 3, Avatar versus Awakened Driver. This is all about finally understanding the difference between the vehicle we're in and the consciousness that's supposed to be steering it. Let's really break this down. The avatar, that's the reflection in the mirror. It's the ego, the vehicle that was programmed by the cradle and the hammer. And crucially, it believes it's in charge. But the watcher, that's the real you. That's the true driver, the center of your awareness that is simply experiencing the journey through that vehicle. You see, the whole problem starts when we get it twisted. We mistake the vehicle, our programmed ego, for the actual driver. And this basically turns us into passengers in the ultimate driverless car, just running on old maps, completely unaware that we could grab the wheel at any moment. So how do you actually take the wheel? That's the big question, right? This brings us to section 4, tending the inner garden, which is all about the practical inner work. It's about consciously cultivating your inner world, almost exactly like a gardener tends a plot of land. The process kicks off with a soil audit. You just take a curious, non-judgmental look at what's already growing in your mind. Then, instead of just ripping out the weeds like anxiety or cynicism, you actually have a dialogue with them. You start to see them as signals. The law of the garden is super simple. What you nurture grows. So, you consciously replace unwanted patterns by nurturing what you do want. And finally, and this is huge, you learn to compost the past. Composting the past. This is the real alchemy of this work. It means the past isn't something you need to delete or run away from. It's meant to be transformed. By bringing this gentle, curious attention to old wounds and old fears, you can actually extract the nutrients, the wisdom, and the strength, and use them as fuel for new growth. But I have to be clear about something. This process is rarely gentle. It isn't always comfortable. In fact, challenges, pain, resistance, those are not signs that you're failing. They are the very friction required to polish the soul. It's what rubs away everything that's false, until only your authentic self remains. Now, after moving through that friction and learning how to tend your inner garden, you enter a whole new stage. And this brings us to our final section, the art of sovereign choice. This is about what it's like to live as a conscious creator of your own reality. So, where does this power even come from? It's found in this quiet, almost unnoticeable space, the tiny gap between a stimulus, what happens to you, and your response. Learning to pause in that little gap, even for just a split second, that's how you reclaim your power to choose instead of just reacting on autopilot. And from that space of choice, a whole new set of operating principles starts to emerge. Your focus shifts from what do I want to what does this choice create? You learn something called detached love, how to hold space for other people without carrying their burdens for them. You practice non-interference, trusting that other people need their own friction to grow. And ultimately, you realize your most powerful teaching is simply your own example. Living this way creates such a profound shift in perspective. You start to see that the path isn't some straight line to perfection. It's more like a spiral. And from this viewpoint, mistakes aren't failures. They're just learning curves. What once felt like darkness or evil is now understood as just a natural contraction before the next big expansion. And the truth is, this work is never done. Awakening is not a destination you arrive at. It's a continuous process of unfolding, where every ending is really just a new beginning. You learn to step forward not as a programmed passenger, but as a conscious navigator on a truly endless journey. Which brings us right here, to this very moment. Let's make this real for a second. Forget the past. Don't worry about the future. Just for a moment, ask yourself with genuine curiosity, what is this present moment trying to show me? And finally, we land on the ultimate question, the one that puts the steering wheel firmly back in your hands. Knowing what you know now, seeing what you see now, how will you choose to meet it? The choice, now and always, is yours.